Hey everybody, this is Brian King from iPhone Central. I want to talk to you about some simple organization strategies. Those of us that have kids with ADHD, or maybe even ourselves, my desk looks particularly organized today, which is a rare event. And we have kids that just walk in and drop their coat, or they leave their plate, or their room is a pigsty. And no matter how much you tell them, clean it up, the reality is it doesn't get done simply by saying clean it up. Our kids with ADHD, dyslexia, or some other executive function challenge typically have difficulty creating a plan. And even if they could create the plan, they often have difficulty executing the plan. So we need to help them get a little bit more concrete and help them devise a system they can use over and over again. And again, this could work very well for you too. The first thing you need to understand is, where are your kids' skill gaps? Do they have difficulty remembering what you told them? Do they have difficulty organizing things, deciding where things should go? Even though you maybe said to them, well, you put it where you put it last time. Well, they might not have retained that. I work off of countless lists every single day. Even things that I do as a matter of routine, day in and day out, I can still forget what the steps are. I can still forget what the order is. That's just the nature of my unique form of ADHD. So I write these things down in an organized list that I can follow. And there are some kids that love lists. And there are other kids that resent lists because they believe, I should be able to do it. I shouldn't need a list. These are kids that falsely believe that the rest of the world doesn't use strategies, that everybody else simply gets it and gets it with ease. We know that's nonsense. One way to help them get past that false belief is to show them what you use. Show them what strategies you use and explain to them that you know a lot of people who use these strategies and that it's the way people do things. It's not the exception, it's the rule. And then hopefully that will let your child realize that they're asking of themselves what really nobody is expecting of them. So that's in general. Let's get specific. In my case, I have very, very poor working memory, which means I have a hard time remembering how to do something while simultaneously doing it. Those are the kids that you give them the directions, they start to do it, and then say, what was that thing you wanted me to do again? That's typically a working memory issue. And in my case, and I had to get tested to find this out, I have difficulty remembering more than 3 things at one time, step by step, 3 steps. So when I design my strategies, I play to that strength. I like to do things in 3s. Sometimes you have a kid that can remember 5 things. Sometimes they can only remember 1 thing. So play to that strength, okay? So what I do is I come up with strategies that give me 3 main categories to break things down in. So when I'm decluttering, I think in terms of save, toss, give. I'm saving it, tossing it out, or I'm giving it away for donation. And we know our kids, they can accumulate a lot of clutter. Reese, who's turned and asked what kind of test did I do? I went to a clinical psychologist and went through a battery of IQ tests and all kinds of other tests and reading and so on to assess the level of my ADHD and dyslexia. So if you want to get similar testing for you or your child, look for a clinical psychologist that's not just going to listen to you talk about how hard your life is, but someone who's actually going to run you through some clinical tests, because those things allow you to get very specific in terms of where the skill gaps are. So that's what I recommend. And those 3 categories of toss, keep, toss, or give, very, very handy. And when your kid has a lot of clutter, stuff they haven't played with in 6 months, but they want to keep it because they might need it, that's probably something that's going to be in the give category. Because for many of these kids, tossing it out can be an emotional experience. They almost feel like they're rejecting it. But if they're giving it away, you can create a story around that giving experience of them passing on their happiness to somebody else and how much it makes them a generous, giving person. So that can make letting go of that object much easier. Let me just use a current craze, this whole Pokemon Go thing, which totally eludes me. But there are kids that have strong associations to their special interests, whether it's collecting model airplanes or collecting cards or whatever. Then what you can do is create a series of bins. Take their main characters, favorite characters, put a picture right on the bin. Then in terms of organizing things, they can create an association between which Pokemon gets this stuff. Okay? You can do it on their drawers. Which Pokemon gets the socks? Which Pokemon gets the jeans? And looking at those pictures and creating that strong association makes it easier to recall where it goes. There's a young lady that I work with off and on who has a hard time remembering how to do hygiene, how to cook. But man, if she knows you and knows what kind of car you drive, she'll remember everything about you. She loves cars. She'll know the make, model, the color of it. And if she sees you in the car, she'll remember your hairstyle, last time she saw you. She'll remember where she saw you, an amazing amount of detail. So what do we do with her? We associate things to cars. You know, when she was studying history, I'd ask, man, what kind of car did they drive during that time? And she could tell me, well, in this year they made these kind of cars, whatever. What kind of person would drive that car? So the more we could attach things to her special interest, the easier it was for her to retain things. So creating a theme in your child's room, whether it's race car drivers or airplanes or whatever it is, could really be in service of helping your child be organized. Now, one thing that worked for one of my boys, and I gotta give 100% credit to my wife Kathy on this one. She is one of those people that is hardwired for organization. It's just in her DNA. I got blessed to have her in my life for many reasons, and that just happens to be the cherry on top of the sundae. And she's helped me with many strategies, and as they occur to me over time, I'll share them with you. But one thing she realized with my middle son, Aiden, who has a lot of executive functioning challenges, much like dear old dad, she kept asking him to pick up his room. Pick up the dirty clothes. Clean up the junk, put it away. And he made a series of excuses. He didn't want to do it. He sounded like he was being oppositional, okay? Which is a label that many of our kids get. And when she went into the room with him to try and kind of stand over him to add some leverage to get going already, that's when it came out. And I think he actually verbalized this, that he didn't know what to do. It isn't that, you can't tell me what to do. It's my room. I'm going to leave it messy if I want to. He simply had no idea how to go about it. So she started to figure out, okay, if I was going to clean this room, what would I do first? Okay, any plan begins with a first step. So you would have to assess what object are you going to tackle first. In this case, dirty socks. Okay, well, you can see where the socks are on the floor. Great. Once you've identified them, where do they go? I think we might have even gotten him a small hamper for his own room so he could just stay in that space. They would go in the hamper. Okay, what's the next thing you look for? Dirty shirts. Okay, you can figure out what a shirt is. Goes in the hamper. It even went so far as her writing these steps down on 3x5 index cards, putting them in a little case, little plastic case, probably cost a few bucks at the office supply store. And when it was time to clean his room, he would go into that little case, pull out a card, and it would tell him exactly what he needed to start with and what he needed to do with it. There are even some kids that need it so specific as to say, pick up the sock, put it in the hamper. Because not only do kids have some serious planning issues depending on the severity of their learning disability, but they have anxiety around it. They're anxious about the fact that they might screw up, that they might look bad, okay? And what do we know about anxiety? It makes your executive functions tank. So not only do they have the challenges, but they might have some anxiety to go along with it. So the more tools we can pile on top of that to compensate for any sabotages in their executive functions are awesome. And there's never, in my opinion, there's never such thing as too many tools, okay? Because you use what you've got to use. With all my lists, with all my apps, and with all the different things that I use, because I've decided I want certain results in my life, period. And I don't have the same resources between my ears in terms of executive functions to just do this stuff with ease. I need a lot of help, okay? So I get the help I need. I get advisors to help me come up with the strategies. I use programs on my computer that I can synchronize to my phone, my iPad, or any device that I have so that I have them everywhere. Because who knows when I'm going to need to call upon these strategies. And I can open my phone, pull up one of my lists, and I'll know exactly what to do. What apps do I use, Reese? I'll tell you what. I will make a list of those apps under this recording because I don't remember them all offhand. You know, I can tell you right now my go-to program is called Omnifocus. It's mostly for business people, I think. But I can make so many lists with that thing, keep them all in one place, put reminders on every single one so that every morning I time them for what time of day I think I'm going to do them so I don't get overwhelmed. And then they pop up, they send an alert out of my phone, say, hey, you need to do this. You need to send this to your email, folks. You need to make sure you call this person. And then as soon as it's done, I click finished and poof. So my list, my OmniFocus lists are my accountability partners. They really, really keep me organized. So this is kind of a beginning. I'm not too sure of what to say to you in terms of detail because I'm not entirely sure what your situation is. So feel free to ask me some questions, underneath this video, and I'll see if I can't fill in some of the gaps. But hopefully I've given you enough to get started. So have fun with this, and we'll be talking again soon.